So let's start. Welcome everyone. This is really a pleasure to welcome everybody to our 4th episode of the Tuungane Program by Melanin Kapital. I'm delighted to be joined today by Ian Minjiri, co-founder of Melanin Kapital. Hi, Ian. And we have the privilege today to have Kumbirai with us as a moderator, a proud Zimbabwean that can, and an expert in moderation that can help us navigate this amazing project in education in Zimbabwe. Good evening, Kumbirai. Very happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here as well.
We also have from our team, Evelyn from Melanin Capital. Hi, Evelyn. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, our entrepreneurs and mentors, and Kosana. Hi, Kosana.
Hi, everyone.
And Kai Liang from MEL Science. Hi, Kai. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you very much for being here. And last but not least, we are joined by amazing investors and finance experts. We're very happy to welcome Aboubaker and Artem. Thank you very much for joining us, and good evening, both of you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So without further ado, let's start. I will start by just reminding what we have been doing so far at Melanin Capital before I pass it on to my colleagues. Melanin Capital is actually a financial advisory firm that supports African social impact entrepreneurs to get access to resources here in Europe, namely business partners, investors, and mentors. And we are very happy today to showcase a little bit more the projects that have inspired us during this journey and that have made a lot of progress during our Tuungane program that Ian will present just now.
Thank you very much, Melanie. My name is Ian Minjiri, and I'm the co-founder of Melanin Capital. And today we present to you the Tuungane Program. During the COVID situation, we realized an inability for people to connect with each other, especially entrepreneurs, investors. And in line with our vision, we decided to inspire collaborations today to build the Africa we want tomorrow. We did this by bringing in different entrepreneurs from Africa and Europe, 10 in total, so 5 from Africa, 5 from Europe, who wanted to together advance the Sustainable Development Goals while reaching out to find new markets, to exchange new technology, and to access each other's talent pool. We then selected different startups, and we started on the first week with a healthcare project in Kenya. Then we moved to a transport project in Ghana, and now we are here with education, which is very important, and it's in Zimbabwe. So I'd like to say that we went through a 3-month program where Kosana and his team got training in legal by Africa Law Partners, in marketing by Bakery Berlin, in tech by Apollo Creative Studio, in financial management by Melanie, and in project management by myself. So I'm excited to see what they have to show us today, and welcome Kosana, or back to Kumbirai. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
All protocols observed. My name is Kumbirai Chipadza, and it is my singular honor to be your moderator for tonight. I'm humbled, I'm proud, and I'm excited for my country, Zimbabwe. It comes at a time where a lot of people don't feel positive about Zimbabwe, but I would like to thank the Melanin Capital team. I'd like to thank the Tuungane project. I would also like to thank our investors and our venture capitalists, part of our panel tonight. But above all, today is not about us, but it's about a young team of young people from Zimbabwe who, against all odds, are on a global stage at the moment. So without further ado, let me say to the CEO and co-founder of Phenomtech, Kosana Masuku, please, the ball is in your court. Please take over. Can we have your pitch, please? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kumbirai, for introducing me. I'd like to ask Melanie to put up the slides so that I can take you all through our pitch.
Absolutely, I'm on it. just right now. Sorry about that. It's always what happens when I have to work with technology. I'm actually way older than I look every time that I have to do that. Is everything fine? Can you see my screen properly?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
Then
Right. Thank you very much. Right. So what you see right here is the combination of a partnership which we've been working on during this program, thanks to Melanin Capital. So like our goal as Sciency is accelerating the adoption of STEM careers in African learners. Right. So the problem which we mostly face in this continent is that we have thousands of African schools right now that have underfunded science labs and resources which are required for applied science learning, making it very difficult for students to actually get quality applied science knowledge. And if you take a closer look, this problem actually stems across the world, because science today, even in the UK, the US, you find it's still not taught in a way that helps learners to apply themselves in the field. Especially in Africa, you find that science is still taught in a textbook methodology. And this problem then delves deeper, because you find in science, children need to actually learn more in an applied way so that they can help in a way that can help them develop innovations to societal problems. And for us to do this in an efficient way, we need to make students understand science on a micro level. And this is through the integration of technology. The second way is to actually make students love science. And the only way to do this is hands-on experiments, but not the same old experiments which we see in our textbooks, which are still being repeated for over 60 years right now. So this is actually a big problem. And the reason why this matters is because according to the research which has been done already, like Africa needs another 1 million scientists if we are to develop homegrown solutions. Because between right now and 2050, half of the global population growth is actually expected to take place in Africa. And according to the United Nations, youth will actually need relevant skills, particularly in STEM, if we're going to be able to support that level of growth in the African continent. And Africa right now is the least researchers, showing with 198 compared to the global average of 1,150, making it really a critical need. So how do we then address this problem? We as Sciency, we have developed the approach to help students understand science on a micro level through augmented reality and virtual reality technology. The Science Learning app basically provides augmented reality experiences of science phenomena that would be otherwise very abstract for students to comprehend. For instance, atoms, molecular level, because if we look at science methodology, everything actually boils down into micro science and the atomic nature. And yet students are not able to see that in their own science labs where they are learning science across the world in itself. So for us to also solve this problem, we have partnered with MEL Science, because we recognize that they're in the United Kingdom. They've developed a novel way to make hands-on science experiments for students, which are modern and original. And through this collaboration with MEL Science, students are therefore enabled to both understand science at a microscopic level and find joy in science through the best hands-on experiments crafted to open their horizons. So this is actually what we call the modern portable lab. So through MEL's chemistry, the MEL chemistry kit actually provides hands-on experience of applied chemistry experiments. From the ease of the students' home, they can perform every month different experiments, which you won't find particularly in any textbook, in any science textbook. And these experiments are designed in a way that the students are actually intrigued into the wonders of science rather than just repeating something which they already have learned. And through our Sciency app, the students actually experience all the models which they would normally find in their school lab and more, because in augmented reality, they're able to explore things at an atomic level, and also animated models like beating heart, how the blood actually flows. Those are just some of the examples. So there's quite a big market opportunity in Zimbabwe, because it has the highest Cambridge exam entries in Africa, globally, with over 120 private schools. So like this is the innovation which we know the parents need, especially in this particular type of schools. It is something which is critical, as you find most students and parents actually wanting to do the science subjects, however, falling off of that STEM pipeline because of difficulty in the subject. So you find that across Africa, student enrollment is actually peaking in private schools, and we're expecting 31 million by the end of 2021. And the greater methodology about private schools is that they have an 80% adoption rate towards quality education technology, despite the pricing, because they believe that their children are capable of advancing towards these science methodologies. So Cambridge is actually the biggest private schools, has the biggest private schools both internationally and in Africa, with over 5 million students sitting in their exams globally. Right, so that's actually a big market opportunity, because you find if we analyze it to a macro level, about 4 million parents are actually investing in high quality science resources across the continent, which with this product is actually a $1.2 billion industry. So it really shows how important it is in adoption of science curricula through advanced and modern ways of learning and teaching science. So in terms of our business model, we have crafted a monthly subscription charge for the B2C customer. Direct customer, it's a monthly subscription charge. And then we are charging the schools termly subscriptions as we establish what are going to be called science STEM clubs. I'm going to talk more about those in the next slides. So we're also actually going to be expanding our product reach through partnerships and contracts with organizations such as World Vision, UNICEF, UNESCO, so as to extend these methodologies across the government schools at a lower cost, because we realize that it is actually where it is needed the most. That is when most students need to actually understand that there is more to science than just the theory, and that it can really be applied into modern day societies. So we're actually working so much on partnerships so that we're able to provide this service across Zimbabwean schools and across the continent at large as we begin to scale. Right, so in terms of traction, here in Zimbabwe, we've become the first Zimbabwean startup accepted into the Google for Startups Accelerator, which is equity-free investment last year. And I'm proud to actually say that the science application has been recommended for adoption in Zimbabwean schools by the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, which is a huge feat because it actually enables us to really provide the service at ease across Zimbabwean schools. So we've beta tested the application in March and officially launched it in June 2020, which is 4 months ago. And just right now in October, we've signed the partnership with MEL Science that is going to enable us to actually carry forward our vision. So in terms of impact, we have in 3 months seen nearly 2,000 downloads, and we have 500 monthly active users and a 30% month-on-month growth with 1 million app usage seconds. And this is actually organic growth without funding. So if you look at the learning outcomes already, through augmented reality, there is a 67% increase in gain as students are able to retain better, because what they experience anyway they are able to project any science material which they learn from. So in terms of SDGs, we're actually tackling SDG 4, which is quality science education, because we're estimating to reach 100,000 learners with quality science education in the next 3 years, accelerating their careers into STEM upon tertiary enrollment. So that's a big metric for us, because we realize, like, students, as we get more students interested into science and interested into STEM, they're going to go over into the tertiary institutions, and we expect them to actually continue in the STEM pipeline. So our growth plan is actually across, going to start like in the first pilot in January 2021. We already have signed an agreement that enables us to put our traction into schools here in Zimbabwe. So we have a committed relationship with the first 2 schools, which we are going to do the first pilot in January. And across that, we estimate to then scale across Cambridge schools here in Zimbabwe first, and also scale then across South Africa Cambridge schools. So we are starting with Cambridge because we realize that the need and that there is the target market for us who are actually able to pay for this initiative. And also in the growth plan, alongside parallel, we'll be running a phase where we are producing the low-cost product for government schools in order to also reach rural schools which need the product. So in the second quarter of 2022, we're going to then scale across the SADC region, and also from 3 years estimating to be hitting a revenue of around 7.4 million. So in terms of our go-to-market strategy, we're going to establish science STEM clubs across our Cambridge schools, and we have already obtained that clearance, which is a very big thing from Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education in Zimbabwe. And that strategy is actually centered around creating communities, because once we have communities amongst private schools, it becomes easier to also promote those subscriptions with the integration of our science STEM clubs into the school fees of the schools. So we've already expressed interest with Girls College, as I have said before. So in terms of our current growth need, we're raising $150,000 to supplement our 3D model library, and also to localize the curriculum of this project across key Southern African markets. And then a huge cost will go to marketing, which is going to funnel our producer acquisition, as well as hire on board several new key hires, especially for the development of iOS and also customer support and sales. So our big goal is to actually reach 1 million learners, so as to develop next generation of scientists who contribute to Africa's growth by the end of 2030. Right, the team is made up of me. I really understand the problem which I'm working with, because I have 4 years experience in the education sector, and I've been recognized as an outstanding leader here in Zimbabwe. So we're actually working with a very bright team, which also includes Paul Mapfumo in business development. We have 7 years in digital marketing, and also several years in startup operations and product development, as well as our Chief Technology Officer with 5 years experience in mobile development, as well as education itself in physics and chemistry. So I'd like to thank you, and also give the opportunity for our partner MEL Sciency to talk more about this.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kosana, and that was exactly your 15-minute pitch. So yeah, you were right on time. And now, before any further ado, would like to ask Mr. Kyle Liang the business development director from MEL Science to also come in as the partner for Phenom technology. So over to you, Kai.
Thank you, Kamburai, and thank you for the excellent pitch presentation, Kasana. May I have the opportunity to share my screen? Okay. I hope you can all see my screen. I would whiz through an introduction about MEL Science, hopefully, ideally in about 4 or 5 minutes. Now, MEL Science, we are a team of scientists and serial entrepreneurs. It's our founder, Vasily and Sergei. It's interesting that Vasily, apart from being a serial entrepreneur and sold his last company to the Russian internet giant Yandex for $38 million in 2011, he was also the champion of Russian physics Olympiad, as well as programming Olympiad when he was young. And our CEO Sergei was actually the winner of gold medal of International Chemistry Olympiad when he was younger. Myself, I used to be the champion of biology Olympiad in China, and I was selected into British team for mathematics Olympiad. So as you can see that we have a team of really mad scientists and also people who are very experienced in education startups before. And so that's MEL Science. And so together we have built the product in MEL Science, which essentially does 3 things. Number 1 is we enable parents and children to do a lot of interesting hands-on experiment at home. And number 2, we would complement this real-life experiment with virtual reality and augmented reality science lessons. Through these tools, we would help educators, entrepreneurs, parents, kids, and education institutions to all work together to help children to be more interested in science. And to complement Science's presentation, I'd like to show you the more picture and the video about our product. Here is some pictures of the kit we sent to families in North America and Europe, because here we follow a B2C model. So we'll send all these boxes to each family. And I also want to draw attention to the mobile phones. In fact, we make a mobile software that support both Android tablet and mobile phones. The software will take student and parents step by step with animation through the process of doing experiment. And during this process, the software also would guide parents and children to do some further research. And of course, we would explain the kind of process, the series, and the description of what's happening in the background. And that was for MEL Science, which caters the needs for 8 to 14 years old. And we have further agreement with Kasana to perhaps introduce MEL Kits to younger children in Zimbabwe. So MEL Kits are the product for younger age. So as you can see that they have much cuter science experiment they can build and experience, and also using a augmented reality program to take them through the explanation of the science series. So when in Europe and North America, we also enable a webinar course. So here are some videos of the webinar course that periodically, free of charge, for people to actually learn with the teacher in a guided format. And also it's worthwhile to explain that our virtual reality and augmented reality science lessons are developed with a quantum level simulation engine. So in not too distant future, we can talk to the children what kind of further experiment you want to do. And we can allow people to actually observe the macro process of chemistry reaction in an interactive level, not just in a prescripted process of teaching. And our VR and AR lesson actually won a lot of international awards, including the annual Innovation Award in British Education, or BET, early this year. And also we are the winner of the best VR and AR solution of EdTech, which is US, essentially top award for education technology. And MEL Science were quite successful in international market. We pretty much have a compounded growth of more than 100% every year. for the last, from 2017. And we now, our content and our product are being sold, apart from B2C in Europe and North America, but also to a growing list of B2B institutional partners in US, in UK, and in China, and in other countries. And we are very pleased to have signed Sciency through the help of MEL Capital to be our first partner in Africa and also in Zimbabwe. And last but not least, because we provide all the software, so we do have the ability to track the interactive data within our lessons, and we're happy to supply this data together with Sciency and together with government, so that we can optimize it, and also to measure the impact that this kind of science teaching is having in terms of the reach and feedback from students and from parents. And I also want to quickly mention, apart from all the international press attention we get, the fact that we also make nowadays close to about 1,000 of free little science videos. These videos has attracted a lot of attention and fans for MEL Science internationally, and we'll be making this available free of charge through Sciency and MEL Capital, so that more young students and teachers can make use of them in Africa. So that completes my quick complimentary introduction for MEL Science. Back to MEL Capital. Thank you.
My apologies. Thank you very much, Kai. That was quite insightful. And I'm glad and honored that you guys have decided to partner with Phenomtech in Zimbabwe. This is quite a big project. And now I am delighted and have the pleasure to be able to welcome our sector expert for this evening's panel. Our sector expert for this panel is the University of Zimbabwe Vice Chancellor, Professor Paul Mapfumo. He's a distinguished academic, an administrator, and a researcher par excellence. Professor Mapfumo has brought with him a wealth of experience, evidence of strong vision and leadership, and a clear commitment to the University of Zimbabwe's founding principles of excellence in teaching, research, innovation, and strength in community in discovering and applying knowledge for public good, anchored by the highest academic and professional standards. And I think from the presentation that we just got from you, Kai, this is exactly why the professor is also with us today. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome Professor Mapfumo. Over to you. Please, can you give us your observations, your take as a guru within the education sector in Zimbabwe, looking at what Phenomtech technology have also come up with as young people that are coming up with innovating skills and expertise that are, well, not only for Zimbabwe, but also for the global market as well. So Professor Mapfumo, would like your experience as well as feedback from the presentations that we got from the collaboration. Thank you. Over to you, Professor.
Kumbre, thanks very much. And to all the panelists, thank you very much for having me as part of this very innovative and good team to engage in this debate. And yes, I would say this touches on a very topical issue of science and education. And I think what Sana was just talking about, and what Kai was talking about, which was deep in the science and how the startups can really be helping. I see it from the following angles. I would want to make my pitch by just outlining about 7 points that I think maybe will speak to part of what we are debating. The first point is on the changing demand globally, and also particularly in developing societies or developing countries in terms of goods and services. What is it that they want? And most of what they want comes from what can be supplied by science and technology. And there's largest demand in developing communities. That's where the diversity of demand opens a biggest opportunity for innovation. Obviously, looking at the difference with well-oiled communities where the demand either shrinks or maybe becomes specialized in only certain areas. For countries like Zimbabwe and the rest of Africa and other developing countries, it's actually much wider in terms of the role that science can play. That would be my first point. The second point is the changing market landscape for industrial products. The changing landscape for markets is actually hinging on the fact that the markets are no longer as local. Whatever we do to supply the local market needs to have to be relevant for the global market. If you like this concept of global, it's both local and global. And that creates extra pressure for our science students, for our schools, to be able to have that global lens wherever they are, that they are not just now interacting with science just for knowledge's sake. It's really to supply that global market. I leave the issue of the market landscape, which in fact shapes the types of industry that we are going to see coming on board, the type of business enterprises that we are going to see coming on board. And this I'm mentioning so that we can later on speak to the issue of our startups and their relevance. Then I will move on to the third point, which is linking problems to teaching and learning. This is two-dimensional. It's linking the first point, which is about what the societies, what the people want. That's what you are trying to link with the learning, the teaching and learning in terms of the redefining the objectives of teaching and the objectives of learning to create the kind of student who can be innovative right from the outset. This is about psychology of learning. This is also about even the sociology of learning. Then after redefining that learning and teaching at different levels, the second dimension to that is also the approaches or methodologies that are used in fostering that teaching and learning. This is where then Gosana, your presentation and Kai's presentation, that's where we have that convergence. The convergence of how technology promotes access to learning, access to science, access to technology. And so it's the linkage that we talked about to teaching and learning, linking that to problems that are there to be solved, is spoken to by the methodologies and approaches that we may use for teaching. And if technology promotes access, if technology promotes realization or actualization of the potential that we have in hidden spaces and on open spaces, then that will speak more to advancing science. In other words, we will need to be pushing science into the common knowledge domain of teaching and learning. To me, I see that as demystification. You want to demystify the science. And I think the technologies that we are coming up with, the innovations that we are coming up with, will demystify the learning and teaching of science and remove the fear of learning science, the fear of teaching science. And I see that as a very key role of technology. So those that are running startups to promote that, that will be one of the most incisive or pioneering channels to promote access to quality education. I see that as a very good avenue to addressing the SDGs in that context. Then the fourth point I thought I would say, still watching my time, is to say it is then the role of technology in shaping the business landscape, that there are so many possibilities to enterprise development, to developing what I can call launch pads for the young entrepreneurs. The technology gives them endless possibilities, really, through science and technology. And that business landscape speaks to new types of jobs, new types of enterprises. So if you ask our upcoming students about employment, I think the word employment, the word entrepreneurship should take a totally different form. And the kind of innovations that are coming from some of you, the project that you're coming up with, speaks to that. And I think that's the perspective from which we might want to interpret some of those innovations. Then the fifth point that I want to speak to is the idea of stimulating innovation among the young population, the students, right from ECD or early childhood learning to university education. Stimulation of innovation among students is on its own a thrust, and it takes also a big chunk of innovations from those that are more engaged to education to see how you can stimulate innovation. It's not until they see what you are doing. I think you were citing Cambridge, you were going deep into the chemistry of things. When learning is made that is through innovation itself, you stimulate more innovation. So that the process becomes self-reinforcing, and you can call it an innovation culture that you'll be building in schools all the way up to universities, but also to interface with industry. That industry then knows that there are also new possibilities. And this industry, by the way it creates itself, it manifests itself, because what you are doing is to create an industry through those innovations. You are an industry yourself through the two presentations that I've had. Then when we look at stimulating innovation, we then go to a point, my last point, which is on, or a second last point, which is in number 6, on sustaining innovation. I think in Zimbabwe, we've seen the establishment of innovation hubs, the establishment of industrial parks. The establishment of innovation hubs provides for those young people or those mentors that are willing to work with the young people, those companies that are willing to support innovation, to come together at the innovation hub and allow the innovation space and come up with things that are not imagined for now. And if we create that environment with the necessary supporting policies, with the necessary supporting financing, and allowing then the opportunities for those startups and IPs as intellectual property generated out of the innovation hubs, then it gives a lot of not just the confidence of learning, but also opportunities in terms of creating a new wave of business enterprises, a new wave or a new generation of entrepreneurs, and also new methodologies for promoting entrepreneurship. And I see that as part of what this program really speaks to. And I think the linkage with those innovation hubs, because it's a declaration of the government's commitment to support innovation. And that's what has been lacking in many times in the past. And where we are going, if we have that commitment at policy level, highest policy level, to support that, I think it speaks well for all the young people that are wanting to go into science, because it provides a pull factor and a reason for people to engage in science. I will end my pitch by just speaking to women in science and speaking to the marginalized communities in science. Let's begin to think about how our innovations, which I said stimulate learning and teaching, how they would attract women students, these girls, to be in science. I'm a scientist myself, and one thing I realized was we were fighting for a few women, probably 3, that would want to involve or participate in many boards, in many initiatives, in many companies, because in the class, in the first place, there are only 5 girl students. So imagine as they go up the ladder, there are only 5, they remain 5. So how do you distribute them? So people can speak big about involving women in positions of responsibility and so on in decision making, but remember there are only 5 in science, all the way up. So how do we get these innovations that you are ably doing to give us an edge in promoting that, but not disregarding also the role that our boys play? So that balance needs to be established. We don't want a song that goes about girl children and forget that what we need to establish is a balance and open opportunities for all. I think that is to be said. So it then speaks indirectly to my idea of marginalized people to have access to science. I think both the presentations that have been given, we want to see how that speaks to those marginalized communities. Does it give them an edge through your innovations that they will be able to access? I think in many ways it does, but maybe it's not emphasized enough to say this will enable an outcome of reaching out to those that were unlikely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Mapfumo. One request that I have, please, your presentation and what you said, if you could please give us the material, then we can also give out to our viewers. There were a lot of comments, there were a lot of feedback. It's only that we are running out of time, but the points that you have raised, the 7 points, are very, very important. I'm also happy to say that we also have a member from the women in science in Zimbabwe, who's actually contributed something. So from what you've said, this is a challenge actually to them now as women in science who are here today in this presentation, to also talk to the team at MEL Sciency in terms of how they can be able to be integrated at an early stage. So the women in science, I challenge you to talk to the MEL Science team here. Professor, once again, thank you, Professor Mapfumo, for those wonderful words. Without further ado, next now we would like to go to our panelists. And first of all, I would like to introduce Artem Gurevich, who is a venture capitalist and investor who's working with and is the investment director of Flashpoint Venture Debt. He's also had a lot of experience within the finance and accounting function for a Pan-African urban development platform. And Artem, I would like to ask you firstly, just to give us a brief of your experience within the education sector, with also the Pan-African aspect there. Then secondly, your feedback as well in terms of what you heard from both our presenters from MEL Sciency. So Artem, over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Excellent presentations, very good to be here. In terms of my experience, yeah, just very briefly, I spent almost 6 years with Rendezvous, which is a Pan-African urban development platform, basically building city-scale development in large cities in Africa. My focus has been on Nairobi, as well as Accra and Lagos. One of my mandates within that business has been to bring schools to our developments, because as most people know, schools are a very good catalyst for housing development in particular. And I'm pleased to say that we've managed to do that in Kenya in particular. So I was directly involved in bringing Crawford International, which is part of Adtech, which is a large South African, listed South African education group. So I was directly involved in bringing their first international school to Kenya. And also I was involved in bringing Nova Pioneer, which also has South African roots, to Kenya, where they opened a number of schools now in the local curriculum space. And apart from that, and obviously as part of that effort, I spent quite a bit of time with Kenyan schools in particular. I also lived in Kenya, and my children attended one of the premium schools in Nairobi. So that definitely doesn't make me an expert on the subject, but at least I have some idea. Regarding Sciency, and thank you, Nkosana, for what you're doing and for the presentation. I would split my comments in two parts. Firstly, regarding the, let's call it the premium market, which you seem to be targeting in the first instance. We're talking about sort of top-end private schools. I think there are two key points there. One is I would look very carefully at the size of the market. I know you've presented the kind of the overall picture, but I would actually, if you haven't done that already, I would definitely drill down into it and actually list out the schools, list out their fees in your sort of target countries, and see how many will actually end up in your target area. Because to pay $300 for the science kit or for this service, I think that's actually quite high. That will cut off a lot of families, even in private schools. So we're probably talking about really, the top end. Okay, maybe or close to it. So that your size of a market is one consideration. You can still build a business, but the question is, it will probably have some limitations. And the second point is obviously around competition, because your top top private schools, the parents and the schools, they can afford, if not anything, then they can afford a lot. And there's been a lot of attention in the science space, and there are solutions. And I actually wanted to ask you whether you're seeing other solutions, and how sort of you feel you will stack up against that. For example, in the case of Crawford, in Kenya and in South Africa, they have something called Go Lab, which is a fully kitted lab with like 3D printers and computers and all kinds of interesting things. And I'm sure there are other solutions as well. So you would, I think, it would be interesting to get your thoughts on that. And obviously, you'll have to compete, I'm sure, at least to some extent. So that's on the premium side. On the other side, which you mentioned kind of very briefly, that sort of in parallel you're developing something. To me, that's really the most interesting side of the business, because obviously the market is enormous, all the way from sort of government schools to sort of, let's say, private local curriculum schools, and just there's many sort of levels and segments there, and clearly it's very difficult for these schools and for the families to afford much, but I can definitely see how using, being very clever and using technology, you can perhaps create very affordable tools that, for science in particular, that won't require a lot of resources and having to replace things, and will allow children to do experiments, perhaps virtually, or in some other way, using technology. And if that can be cracked, if that solution can be found, then that's a huge business, because you can sell that into government schools, you can sell it into the vast majority of lower cost private schools, and then that can be incredibly exciting. That's my comments.
Okay, thank you very much, Artem. Just wanted to ask Kosana, do you have any quick reply to what Artem has raised? You can say yes or no. Yes. Okay. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Right. Thank you, Artem, so much for your contributions. I think I'll first tackle the first one where you mentioned the $300 fees. So if we actually look at it, when we talked about the $300, that's actually the war annual payment. The monthly subscription is actually $35, which is quite affordable to the private schools in that market. Like you were saying that it would be best if you have broken down all of them with the school fees, and that is exactly what we have done. So I think compared to that, it's actually quite affordable to those students as well. So then in terms of the low cost opportunity, yes, like that's actually something which we're really focusing on. I myself actually experienced as a rural teacher. So for us to actually have this whole presentation here, it's because I saw the dire need in rural schools first before anywhere else. So we're really working hard on developing a low-cost solution, which we're going to partner with the government, so as to provide, especially to those marginalized schools, I think, which the professor really mentioned, that there is a great need there. So we're working with MEL Sciency on a very low-cost and affordable prototype, which is already there, and we are going to be introducing this into the pilot phase as well, parallel to that business model which will be running. So there's really a large market, because even if we look at it in Zimbabwe alone, we have about 7,000 schools, both primary and secondary, which really targets all of those students. And the model is quite exciting, because we have also large organizations in Zimbabwe, such as Comfort, World Vision, which really also cater for those for those kind of schools, and we're ready to partner with them in offering that kind of solution. So I think that addresses like the core of those comments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to understand the business model once you're a bit more advanced in terms of a more affordable product.
Yes,
okay,
definitely.
Okay, thank you very much for that and for that reply as well. So yeah, and again, Kosana, another challenge is how do you include the marginalized people in terms of women, and yeah, and also creating a balance once again. So we also need to continue reminding you about that as well. Otherwise, thank you. Now to our last special guest. I would like now to introduce Mr. Aboubaker Benslimane, who is Greentec Capital Head of Startup Resources, and is a specialist for identifying high potential startups that will benefit most from additional value generating support activities and financing. Aboubaker, would like to ask, what is Greentec doing in terms of investing in Africa, especially in the education sector, with particular reference to that? What is your role in that as well? And can you please give feedback to the startup from their presentation? Over to you, Aboubaker, and welcome. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Melanie, for the invitation. And actually, the investment in education and in tech education is very hard because firstly, you don't have like specialized investment funds dedicated to the education in Africa. You have some, but not really. So we are every time obligated to find different way or to try to mix with another sectors to invest into education. But in otherwise, access to the education is clearly the challenge for the future. And as many sectors, as telecom or banking, we can catch up with the large African gap through digital technology. So first of all, I want to say thank you and congratulations for all that you have been already achieved, guys. What you're doing is very important, not only for you, but for the whole continent, which needs more scientific, and this has been proven in the last years. And the pitch deck is really great, and I want to congratulate you for that also. But to continue, and given that we had a good link state with the previous speakers, I prefer to leave the microphone to the entrepreneurs for whom I have a lot of questions, some investors' questions. My first question is about the content and the containers. Is it owned by MEL Science, or is it already produced by you, or what is the nature of the partnerships between MEL Science and you? The second question is, what do we need to follow the course? Do we need a lot of different materials, or the sample kit that we can bring is sufficient? And the third question is, the science is the same everywhere, and it's a common language in all the world. So why not grow faster? And so what do you need to go to the new market? And why you just focus on 2 markets in the south of Africa? And why you are not going to different parts in East, in West, in North, in Francophone? And you can go very fast. And why you don't do it?
Thank you very much, Aboubaker. Kosana, it's over to you, Kosana and Kai, in terms of for the questions. I hope you got all of them. If not, you can start with the first question, then we can ask Aboubaker again to repeat the second and third question. But if you have them all, please can you be able to quickly also now, in terms of an elevator pitch, not an actual pitch in terms of answering the questions. Thank you very much.
All right, so I think I'll answer the first question, then also leave Kai to answer the second question. So like in terms of the product itself, like Sciency, I think what you were mentioning is how like the structure of the products are. So Sciency is already in-house developed solution here in Zimbabwe. Like that's our own application in terms of augmented reality experiences, and as a portable lab, it's fully owned by Sciency Phenomenon Technologies in Zimbabwe. And we are in this partnership, we're coming together to also bring what MEL Science have, which is MEL chemistry kits that are going to stimulate like hands-on practical science experiences. So this all then becomes a package as a way like to cater for both the technological side and the hands-on experience, and both the two, MEL chemistry itself having their own like product already. So we are having to form a package which we are going to actually pioneer, like in terms of the STEM clubs, which is our go-to-market strategy. And I think you also talked about like why in terms of scaling. So yes, actually, like science is a common language across African continent, but the best way in which as a continent, like you find that there are different curriculums as well, which are localized to each individual content. And it's best when you have material which actually speaks to the students in terms of their own specific curriculum that they are studying. And so that is why we're going to that is why we're actually raising, so as to localize against those African curriculums and scale across those different key contexts. So I think I'll leave Kai to also explain a bit further on your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasana, and thank you for your question and the encouragement, Aboubaker. Yes, you are right. Science is consistent internationally in terms of knowledge, and also from our science point of view, we do make our product currently already available to more than 40 different countries on a B2C basis. It's also important for me to say that we fully respect that even though the product is the same, but the delivery of product is very specific to the culture, to the country, and to the individual need. Take an example. We offer webinar courses in UK, and we offer that in US. But even though actually English is spoken as pretty much a global language, but I actually decided that for Australia and New Zealand market, instead of MEL Science finding the teacher to deliver these webinar courses, we are going to find New Zealand and an Australian local teacher to actually deliver webinar courses. Why? Because the teacher in the individual country and individual regions, they know their audience, they know the students, they know the curriculum, they know the challenges, and they even know the right joke to actually get students and parents more involved in science. So that culture specificity is very important. So for the same reason that when we look for webinar courses in China and in Zimbabwe, I would respect the expertise and the choices and recommendations of Sciency. It's very encouraging to work with Sciency here because Kasana himself has been a very experienced teacher before. So he look at our product, he knows how to utilize it so that we make the product most engaging and most rewarding to the market of Zimbabwe. And we will be looking for the right people to work with in other markets, even in sub-Saharan Africa. That's why it's really great to have the encouragement and the involvement of Professor Mapfumo, because there's just so much local ideas on how science should be taught and best to be taught and delivered. And indeed, tonight I talked in the panelist with people who have a particular focus on how to draw more women or young girls to be interested, to be engaged with science studies. And further on, MEL Science, we will be developing product to allow people to go through a more creative end of science and of experiment. So I think it wouldn't take long for us to, once we know the market well with Sciency, we would be developing certain product together with Sciency. So those products we develop together with Sciency, then we will share the right, and that will be very catered and very focused to the needs of the Zimbabwe market, and also to the individual type of market and audiences will be actually servicing. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, so if I can make a recommendation, I think that I saw more and more accelerator or incubator or co-working spaces who are inviting some child, like the Sunday or the Saturday morning, to have some course on digital, for example. You can also like propose with your product something like that, but some science course for the Sunday morning in the different accelerator. And I know that now the incubator and accelerator are looking for new incomes, and I think that it can be like a good income for them, and it can be a good partner for you.
Thank you very much. We will take that advice seriously, and we'll try to follow it up. And if you can recommend some of them to us, we'll look to speak to them together, and perhaps they would have people who can join in to actually deliver the actual teaching of science, because that's going to be the biggest barrier. Because between Sciency and MEL Science, we offer the content, we offer the curriculum, but it'll be a struggle for us to actually, for Sciency to deliver the individual lesson across the wider and wider regions in different countries. So yeah, more location and more teachers and more partners will be great to help us to scale this service.
Perfect. So you can find my email with Melanie. Not hesitate to write me, and we'll be happy to connect with you after.
Yes, very much. Thank you very much.
Aboubaker, are you done?
Yes, if you want another thing, I can help, but I'm not done.
Okay. Hey, unfortunately, our time is. This has been an interesting conversation. Once again, I would like to say I'm here. I'm been your moderator. I'm Gurevich, and I'm moderating because I'm also from Zimbabwe. So, as a Zimbabwean based in Europe, in Germany, I just want to thank the great team of young entrepreneurs led by Nkosana, Heather, and Kla for the great work that they've been doing that has made companies like MEL Sciency, that has led people like Greentec Capital to be here today with us over this short time. I would like to say to Melanin Kapital, before I hand it over to you guys, I know there are a lot of questions. Melanie and Ian, guys, you need to do something. You can see Zimbabwe's got a lot of questions. Zimbabwe wants to be involved in projects. So you have to come up with a plan whereby you can get all these people back again or get feedback to them. So yeah, on behalf of them, from myself as a moderator, Melanie and Ian, over to you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kumbirai. What a lovely experience to be around. You know, it's brightened up my evening, actually. It was so great to hear. It's so much an honor to have Professor around and all sorts of change makers in the room, all the way from the entrepreneurs to different people in the field, to the investors. You know, it's such a good ecosystem to have in a discussion where people can discuss all that's happening in the continent, out of the continent. And I'd like to bring out some wise words from Nelson Mandela, who said, education is the most powerful weapon that you can use to change the world. And I love that I can see it right here. Starting from the beginning, when you bring in this kind of entrepreneurship, I think like we will manage to inspire, for example, those watching to also push themselves to innovate more, to the investors out there to put more money in this, in Africa, you know, invest in us, let's work together, let's collaborate, let's unite. Tuungane. Thank you very much. Over to Melanie.
Thank you very much, Ian, and thank you for this inspiration, because I think that today was a very motivating and magical event. I would like to thank again from the bottom of our hearts, Professor Paul Mapfumo, for coming with us and honoring us with your presence. Of course, Kumbirai, for your amazing moderation and for facilitating this debate. This was awesome to have you on board. The team of Melanin Capital that have made this happen, and of course our investors that came today and provided an amazing feedback. That is always important to have the words from the investor world to the entrepreneurs that we're supporting. And last but not least, of course, I would like to congratulate our entrepreneurs and mentor in Kosana and of course Kai Leang. Thanks to you, we have been able to have this amazing conversation, to learn more from you and to achieve this journey together. Kosana, it was amazing to see your progress and to see how you've managed to put this project together and develop it to the next level. And Kai, thank you again for your trust. You've been engaging with this journey with us, and we know that it was not always easy, but you came with your open mind, and this is thanks to motivated and inspiring professionals like you that actually African entrepreneurs can achieve greater impact. So thanks a lot. And I would like to end by really thanking also all our partners that made this event possible: Greentec Capital Foundation, Shaper Impact Capital, JAMA Funding, DIRA Partners, and all the experts that Ian has mentioned earlier. This was an amazing journey, and we hope to have all of you for our last pitch event next week, which will showcase a fintech and a prop tech, so a real estate technology platform in Nigeria and South Africa. And we are really, really excited to do this last event together. So thank you very much again, everyone, and have a lovely evening. We will now stop the live and keep just all the speakers with us to have the last private session, just the last goodbye for the next 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone. Good evening and bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, we are not live anymore, and we'll just remove people from the public in the Zoom.
Thank you.
But thank you again, Aboubaker. I guess you have to go. We just wanted to say thank you again, and we are a little bit over time, so we know that everyone has to go back to their occupation. But we would like to give the opportunity for you, Artem, and Professor Mapfumo, if you want further information about Sciency and